What if pain isn't the problem, but actually the pathway back to you? You're listening to The Leadership Wound, From Pain to Permission. I'm Amanda Rohr, your host and founder of Authentically You, coaching for embodied spiritual living and leading. This is where we get honest about the real cost of leadership, the burnout, the pretending, the rejection, and the return to your authentic self. Because this isn't about performance, it's about permission. Welcome to the leader you've always been.
This is how people change. This is how leaders grow. Not through one big breakthrough, but through 1-degree shifts made again and again and again. Welcome to The Leadership Wound. I'm your host, Amanda Rohr, founder of Authentically You, coaching for embodied spiritual living and leading, and your fellow traveler in the journey of healing leadership wounds and reclaiming authentic influence. Today, we're diving into part 3 of our self-leadership series, and I want to talk about something we've all been told, but that's often leaves us stuck, and that is the myth of motivation. You've probably heard it. You just need to get motivated. But here's the truth. You don't need more motivation. You need momentum. And the way we get momentum is through micro decisions, through small, consistent shifts that realign us with who we're becoming. So if you've ever felt stuck, unmotivated, overwhelmed, or unsure where to begin, this episode is for you. But before we start, let's anchor ourselves for a moment. In this series, we've been exploring what it looks like to lead yourself well, because the hardest person you'll ever lead is you. And that leadership is built on 3 pillars. The number 1 is clarity. Know your why. Number 2, decision. Making aligned choices. And number 3, identity. Living from your truest self. Today is all about the second piece, decision. And not the big, dramatic, life-altering kind. I'm talking about micro decisions, tiny shifts, quiet yeses, invisible moves that no one else may notice, but that change everything. What are micro decisions? Well, they're small, intentional choices that move you closer to your values and vision. They don't feel groundbreaking. They don't come with fireworks, but they do compound over time. Let me give you some examples. Texting a friend to ask for prayer instead of spiraling in silence is a micro decision. Setting a 10-minute timer to start a task you've been dreading. Laying out your walking shoes the night before because you want to become the person who moves her body daily. And lastly, saying no to one more obligation because you're choosing rest. It's these kind of shifts that retrain your brain and actually change your identity. This isn't just motivational fluff. There's real neuroscience behind this. When you take small, repeated actions, you activate your brain's basal ganglia, which is responsible for forming habits and routines. You reduce cognitive resistance by making the choice easier, not bigger. This creates something that we call a habit stacker, meaning the more times you show up in small ways, the more your brain normalizes it. Think of it like this. Getting started in a new direction is kind of like trying to push a car that's stuck in the mud. At first, it takes everything you got to just get it to budge an inch. But once those wheels start turning, even just a little, it gets easier to keep it moving. You don't need a giant shove. You just need to break the resistance. That's what a micro decision does. It gets you out of the rut, onto the right path, and the rest comes naturally. All it takes is one decision in the right direction to set you on the path to where you want to go. But let's talk about the things that keep most of us from even starting, and that is perfection. The voice that says, it's not worth doing unless I can do it right. I need to wait until I have more time, more clarity, more motivation. I just need to wait. Or my favorite, I'm waiting to feel like it. before I begin to put my money and time towards pursuing my dreams. I'm just waiting to feel motivated. But perfection isn't about high standards. It's about a fear of failure, a fear of being seen, a fear of doing it messy. And perfectionism doesn't need to be conquered. It just needs to be bypassed altogether. We do that by taking small steps in the right direction, no matter how messy they are. Doing it is better than doing it perfect. Start where you are, with what you have, in the direction of who you're becoming. I want you to imagine a compass for a moment. If you shift it just 1 degree, it doesn't look like much, but walk that path over miles and miles, and you'll end up in a completely different destination. This is how people change. This is how leaders grow, not through one big breakthrough, but through 1 degree shifts made again and again and again. That's what coaching is often about. You don't come to coaching to be motivated. You come to get aligned, to make small, sustainable shifts that carry you from where you are, where you've been, to where you're called to be. Let me tell you about one of my own. When I was first thinking about stepping away from my last leadership role, I didn't feel ready. Everything wasn't clearly spelled out on where I was headed, and I definitely did not feel confident. But I stayed true to my core convictions of what I knew I wanted, and I made one decision: to be open to God when He said move, to be available to say yes when He called. That moment didn't change everything right away, but it did open the door to possibilities. I could not have anticipated what was going to happen when I said goodbye to my previous role. And that one micro movement eventually led me to this coaching business, to this podcast, to pursuing a co-vocational model of ministry, to more freedom and authenticity to be my true self. I didn't know it in the beginning, but it led me here. It led me right to you. All because of a decision that aligned with the woman I was becoming, who God saw me to be all along. So here's what I want to ask you. What's one small decision that you can make today that aligns with who you're becoming, who God has created you to be? What is that one small decision? It could be closing your laptop tonight early so you can be prepared for the night. It could be drinking a full glass of water before reaching for your coffee cup. Or saying, I don't know, in a meeting, instead of pretending you do know. Maybe it's taking 5 minutes to breathe, to pray, to journal, or just to be. Or maybe it's even taking the first step and pursuing your dream. Maybe it's signing up for a coaching call with me so that you can begin to live and lead the way you've always dreamed you wanted to. Whatever it is, make it small, make it real, and then do it. Because every time you act in alignment, you reinforce the identity of your future self. Let's make space right now for this. Wherever you are, unless you're driving, I want you to close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let yourself slow down for the moment. Picture yourself a week later, a month later, 6 months down the road. Picture the version of yourself that you've always wanted to be, the version of you who is already living and leading in alignment with your calling, who's not hustling for approval or stuck in trying to be perfect, but is the version of yourself that you dreamed you would be. The version of yourself that's clear on your why, that's already making aligned decisions, and who's already free from everything that has previously held you back. Now ask that version of yourself, what's one tiny thing that I can do today that will help me to get to that version of myself? What can I do today that will bring me closer to that version of myself? Write that down. Speak it out loud. Proclaim it out into the ethos. Tell someone, and then do it. Even if you're scared, do it. Do it imperfect, do it messy, but do it. Because momentum doesn't come from waiting to feel ready. It comes from trusting the small steps done consistently over time that carry you forward. And as always, if you're ready to prioritize yourself, your dreams, seeing yourself live and lead authentically, it would be my privilege and honor to walk with you in that journey. It's what I specialize in. You can book a free growth plan consult at my website, authenticallyu.org, and we can get practical right away about the micro movements that will create momentum in your life to create the life you desire. If this episode stirred something in you, I encourage you to take a step. And if you haven't already, go back and listen to episodes 14 and 15 for the full context of this series. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps leaders just like you find this podcast and step into an authentic, aligned leadership. Until next time, till we dive into the next episode of this series, lead like you.